All right, welcome back, everyone. Obviously, a lot of people excited for the conversation that we just had. They're probably having it in their own workspace right now. That, of course, is the World Cup. What does your bracket look like? What team are you supporting? And will we indeed see Team USA or, heck, maybe even Team Canada, Team Mexico? Obviously, we have a ton of fans here of all three countries scattered throughout North America. Our Jake Garriani, who's been in Irvine covering the men's national team, their training, the process that they've been going through. Jake, obviously, welcome back down here to San Diego. I know the weather is a little bit different in Irvine. I heard that some of the Europeans were maybe dealing with the heat, if you will, in Irvine.
It was toasty up there.
Yeah.
They're in a great facility, though. Great Park was the first time I've been to Great Park in Irvine. It's a massive, massive facility, really nice, high-quality facility for the United States men's national team to train on. And I really enjoyed that experience up there. They're a fun team to cover. Obviously, a ton of excitement around this team for multiple reasons, you two. One, this World Cup being on home soil for the first time since 1994 when you look at the men's World Cup. And two, this young group of Americans has been building for this World Cup for a long time. We saw it in 2022. Some of that youth come through. They made it out of the group stage into the knockout round before losing to the Netherlands. And now the expectations, they're reasonable, but they're pretty high for the United States men's national team going into this World Cup. And you can hear it when we talk to the guys up there. You can hear it from Mauricio Pochettino and what he wants to do with this squad. So it's a very, very exciting day being up there and then heading into this Friday for their first match.
So what was the vibe like? I mean, is there a sense of like we've got nothing to lose, or is it a sense of we've got expectations? Because I think you can see a team carrying themselves a little differently with that.
There's definitely expectations.
Yeah.
The idea that they have nothing to lose is impossible. I mean, this is USA soccer. This is a ton of money put into this. This is expectations have not been met for a long, long time with this club. And now they feel like they can meet some expectations. Now, what are those expectations? I'm sure we'll talk about what is realistic for this team and then what is like the sky-high hopes. But as far as like the vibe from the players, they're confident. They're walking around with a ton of confidence. I think they feel really good considering the two friendlies they had leading up to this World Cup. And they played really well against Senegal, winning that 3-2. And played the Germans quite well. That's a European powerhouse.
That was a 2-1 loss.
And they gave up that first goal in the first 6-7 minutes of that match, whatever it was, on a really silly play. And then all of a sudden, they pretty much went toe-to-toe with the Germans, at times dominating that game. So I think they have a ton of confidence going into this World Cup. You start to look at the group, what they're in. Again, we'll get into it, but the expectations have to be to get out of group play easily.
You mentioned the youth of the team, especially in that 2022 World Cup. I feel like it was sort of a welcoming party for those uninitiated with this squad that we have now, especially when it came to a guy like Pulisic, who did an incredible job, but oftentimes during that 2022 World Cup, it felt like he was the sole offensive engine of that team. Of course, he was playing reserve minutes in Chelsea at that time. He has since gone to AC Milan, and you have seen his playing time, his production go up since then. Do you get that same vibe where from this team that it is really this one-man show, or are you seeing a more fully formed team being built around Captain America himself?
Yeah, it's a wonderful point. I think the beauty is that there is a fully formed team around him. It's not just reliant on him. In 2022, United States men's national team scored 3 goals in their 4 World Cup matches. Yeah. Not a great ratio. This team has proven that they can score. They have a lot of different people that can put the ball in the back of the net, and you've seen that in some of those friendlies. You've seen that within the last year of their play on the pitch. The question with this United States men's national team, funny enough, is going to be that back line. Can they keep the ball out of the net? You know, that's going to be really the big thing this time around, because they have really proven, I can't remember the last time they had a clean sheet. It's been forever, right? They've proven that the defensive part of their game will be the thing in question. I think this team will be able to press a lot of chances, and a lot of that comes from not only having these youthful players come up and building around Christian and a lot of these guys, but it's also Mauricio Pochettino. Yeah. This guy brings that Argentinian flair, that press all the time flair, that don't back down, don't be afraid, we're not going to sit. So what Pochettino has brought to this squad, it's showing already in the way they attack, the way they're aggressive. And I think maybe the casual fan will really know going into this World Cup when they start to pay attention to this USA team.
Now, obviously, there was a lot of drama surrounding the 2022 team. The former head coach, Greg Berhalter, obviously Gio Reyna. Does that seem to sort of be behind them? Obviously, Gio's still with the team. His parents are very involved in Team USA, and that's always been something that I think some people are maybe even surprised by. But that's seemingly behind them, right?
100%. And I think, to bring up Mauricio again, is like, this is a guy that doesn't play around with that.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like, he's like, I'm here to run this club, and I'm going to run it to the best of my ability. You've seen it in the way Pochettino talks about people. We all have heard the stories about the guys that didn't make the 26-man roster getting an email, basically saying, hey, thanks for your application. We're moving on. This guy's cutthroat's probably too harsh because he's a really nice human and all that stuff, but he's all business. That's the better way to put it. This man is all business, and you can tell by the way they train. You can tell by the way they're focused on the pitch. And so, all the drama, the nonsense, it feels behind. And it's a good microcosm for what the United States men's national team has been before and where they're at now. I think the growth of that kind of stuff, like the petty politics and all that stuff, feels behind them going into this World Cup.
I think so, too. We talked about the one-man show. Of course, there's one man that everyone knows, people who pay attention to the U.S. men's national team, even if it is casually, that is Pulisic. I can't remember. Is it Pulisic?
I say Pulisic. I feel like the Pulisic thing came out for a while there, and everyone's like, we need to call him Pulisic. Okay. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Christian Pulisic, but...
Okay, Pulisic. Okay, I'll go for it.
That's what I go.
I literally I looked up pronunciation because I'm like, that sounds right.
They added the CH at the end of the.
And I think of Doncic.
Okay.
I think of Doncic, like Luka Doncic.
Or Travis Etienne
I just want to make
sure.
But Christian doesn't have any of the accent.
It's Croatian apparently. So I just had to do a little research on the side. I just want to make sure I'm getting it correct. But everyone knows who he is. But you mentioned that this is a more well-rounded team. So at the end of this tournament, who do you think is going to be the player that people are going to be talking about outside of him?
They've got a lot of guys to keep an eye on, and I think it's really a testament to the depth of this team. We all saw in that Germany match that unbelievable ripper from Anthony Robinson. He's a guy to keep an eye on right there. Even though he's in that back line, you're like, hey, if you're able to have those guys press forward, and one thing the United States men's national team does well is they play kind of hybrid style, right? They're able to have some of those guys go up and make plays like that. So the Jedi Anthony Robinson is one to keep an eye on. Sergino Dest is another name that people familiarize themselves with. Tim Weah, there's a lot of big-time names on this roster that I think Gio Reyna we've already talked about, who scored in the Paraguay friendly, and they're getting set to play Paraguay. So there's a lot of names that I think people can keep an eye on with this team. Haji Wright's another guy that I really like, but it feels way more depth-centric this time around.
Yeah.
I feel like they have a lot more options, and we've already touched on this a few times, a lot more options than they did in the past. Where you're like, hey, where is the goal scoring coming from? To now, hey, Mauricio Pochettino's got a bit of a who is in my starting 11 because I have good options.
Yeah,
which is a great position to be in, right? So I think they've got a lot of quality players that they can go to.
And it really does seem like we've come out of that Landon Donovan, Tim Howard fog of we were in this middle zone after them where it was we've got a young team. We've got this really young team. And now we're in that phase of these are obviously we know this is the next generation. We've heard all of the things that have been around them. But if not this time, this is it feels like this is the first time we're having a good vibe foundation laid for Team USA Soccer. Obviously, we want to see them succeed this year, but in the next 4 years, these are still young enough guys that they will likely be on the roster in the next 4 years.
Definitely some of them. If you look from 2022, which was a youthful roster as well, to 2026 now, 13 of the guys on the 2022 roster are now on the 2026 roster, and there are 13 new players. And so you'll kind of see that core, to the best of its ability, continue to move forward and try and continue to build on what they're doing. And there will be new names in the mix, of course, like there is all the time. So I think they've got a decent balance. This, to me, feels like their most complete roster in a very long time. I think they have a really good balance with what they're doing. Even when you look at their captain, Tim Ream, the man wearing the armband, he's 38 years old. This is it for him probably, right? And he's got that veteran leadership. And then you talk about Pulisic, who's been there and done that. And then you have some of these much younger guys on this roster, too, who are going to be able to learn and blend and grow with this team. So they feel like they're in a good balance. All that being said, let's manage expectations a little bit with what this team could possibly do in this 26 World Cup.
I'm glad you mentioned managing expectations because we made our own brackets, so we compared them just before you got on. I was perhaps maybe a little bit bullish. I'm not saying you're not, but who'd you have them going against?
I had them winning the group.
You had them winning the group. I had them winning the group as well. I had an upset, I think, against Belgium, or I had them losing against Belgium, but I had them going to the quarterfinals. He had round of 16. What do you think? Even round of 8 is
I had them
something.
Losing,
Do you think that is something that if that were to happen, should we be surprised by that? What is your thoughts?
My honest expectations for this team, I think winning this group is very possible. First of all, I think they're in a really winnable group when you look at Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. I think Turkey is probably the next best squad in that group, but the United States, in my opinion, are probably the best team in that group. So it becomes imperative that they win that group because it does make the path the rest of the way more manageable for them. If they finish second or God forbid, if they're one of the third teams that gets pulled out of there and all of a sudden you got to face a powerhouse, then, you might be first round knockout. But I think realistic expectations are the round of 16 for this team. They should win one game in the elimination round in my mind, with what they have built. And then from there, it kind of depends who you face, where it falls, all that stuff. But I think anything short of the round of 16 is going to feel like a failure for this team. Anything past the round of 16 is going to be like, all right, like look what we've done. Keep building on that. So as much as everyone is fired up right now, the idea of like winning a World Cup for the United States feels still very, very far away. But they have made some great strides. And I think, to me, I'm eyeballing that round of 16 for them.
Okay. You have obviously been ingrained with this coverage, talking a lot of Team USA. Do you have a favorite that you circled, and not rooting interest, but like, hey, this is who I, as my sportscaster hat on here, this is who I've identified as likely I think will win this.
I think you look at some of the powerhouses: Spain, France, Argentina. Italy. Whoops. Not Italy, obviously. I think the French will probably win this World Cup. That's who I have on my mind. But there's a couple teams like, I think Germany's one to keep an eye on, but they've always seemingly disappointed in the World Cup.
Lately,
But I think when you look at those powerhouses, Brazil, Spain, Argentina, France, those are the ones I'm keeping an eye on. Those are the ones I expect to kind of be there at the end. There's only been like 8 teams to ever win the World Cup.
Yeah,
right?
we're talking about
so
that.
Chalky.
So the parity doesn't really exist in the World Cup. So for new teams to get in there, it's like the safe bet to be like, it probably won't happen. But we've seen some unbelievable runs in the World Cup as well. But if I'm putting my money down, which I don't bet on sports for good reason, I'm betting on the French to win.
No sneaky money on the Ivory Coast or anything like that.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Cape Verde. Let's go.
Exactly.
Cape Verde.
Shout out CJ Dos Santos.
It would be really cool to see. I think that's what's so fun about like these tournament bracket style sporting events that happen. Even if you look at like March Madness, it's sold as like this Cinderella story.
Yeah.
We're gonna see this 16 seed, but like you look at like the last like 20 champions, and it's like maybe not 8 teams condensed, but it is like it's all like Big East, former Big East, like Big 12. It's all the big schools, right? Like it's been a while since we've seen a small school win the national title in college basketball. But then you look at the World Cup, and we're sort of enamored. You have all of these teams that likely don't have a shot that are throwing their energy behind this. And I have to think it's a large part that international flair for it, right? It's that aspect that we are seeing countries.
And it's here in the U.S.
And also now that we're seeing it here in all of North America.
It's the biggest tournament in the world. I know that maybe the United States isn't at the level of the rest of the world when you talk about soccer, but this is the biggest sport in the world. This is the biggest tournament for the biggest sport in the world. This means more to more people than any sporting event out there. It is as big a deal as it gets when you talk about the World Cup. To win it is immortalizing yourself in sports lore around the world. So you see these teams pouring everything into it because that's what it's all about when it comes to this sport. This is the pinnacle of everything. And it's funny that you've seen, teams like Uruguay win a World Cup where the United States has poured endless money into what they're trying to develop, and these other nations, much smaller nations, have been able to do things. So, why and how you win a World Cup, that math is interesting to me in itself. It's not all about the money, which is kind of a beautiful breath of fresh air for us American fans for sports, right? Where a lot of different times money has been the thing. This is not the case all the time. Now, I'm not saying that France and them friends and them don't pour a ton of money into their deal.
No, it's not that we need a salary cap in World Cup soccer, but maybe a talent cap, if you will. It can't allow for all these teams to have all the good players. But that's going to do it for us here on Right Now. Jake, thank you so much for joining us and doing a heck of a job out of Irvine. Tomorrow's Friday, guys. We've got Team USA versus Paraguay. Enjoy some World Cup action. We'll see you tomorrow.